Morning, everyone. Day 2 of Midgardsblot here. Instead of from the beach, I am on one of the Buddhahaugen, which is a burial mound, which means, yes, there are Viking corpses under me right now. We actually did just a few close friends and some strangers. We got together last night to do our own little private offering ceremony of, our own little spiritual thing. We did on one of these mounds, and, I've only done them in the States where there's that distance disconnect type thing, but doing it actually here on a mound where that there are even potentially the bodies of those from the Ynglinga dynasty under here. We don't know for sure. It's just a really interesting experience, and yesterday, for those of you who saw the picture on my personal Instagram page, I participated in the blot, which is, I actually still have a little bit right here. I tried to clean it off. But it's where, we all gather around and dance in that drum circle, and there's blood that's sort of like blessed, and then you take it as like an offering. So, I smeared it all over, but then I felt, when the ceremony was done, I felt a little funny walking around the town with blood all over my face. Felt like someone was going to call the cops. So I went swimming to clean it off, but I clearly didn't get all of it. But it's a fun experience. I got to swim in Norway for the first time before the really cold weather moved in. It was really weird. The first few days here, it felt like Louisiana. It was really off-putting. It's not how I was told Norwegian Augusts would be at all. But now the weather's normal. Now I'm all bundled up. But yeah, I got to do that. Luckily, the weather was good enough where I could bathe and clean it off without freezing to death. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about what day 1 was like. For those of you who don't know, because I don't think I mentioned it yet, is every day from like 10 to 4. Midgardsblot at the museum here, the Viking Center, we have scholars visiting from all over the world who work with either Norse history or Nordic history or even modern issues surrounding it. And we had a lot of really cool talks yesterday. There was I hope I'm getting his first name right. I know his last name. There was Tim Nancaro from Melbourne, who gave a really cool talk on how sacrifice was used in supplication. That was such a cool talk. And then he did his own body suspension thing. I unfortunately missed it because I had other things to do. That was really awesome. And then Claire Mully from, I believe, Oxford. I know you just followed me on Instagram, so I hope I got that right. She talked about female voices in Norse poetry. And she got to talk about Wagner, so that was my favorite familiarity. But she mostly talked about Sylvia Plath, who's a great poet. That was a great talk. And then there was Dr. Frederick Gregorius from Linköping. He talked about he had a really thought-provoking presentation that was about, of course, the fact that our modern image of a Viking is an invention, right? It's not to say that Vikings were invented, but the whole image, the horned helmets, sorry, I got low battery, the horned helmets, the long beards and the throbbing muscles, those are all an invention by different people who had different vested interests in Viking images, be they political, national, social, anything like that. And he gave this really inspiring talk, or this presentation, about how, if the 19th century got to invent their own Viking, and then the 20th century got to invent their own Viking, why are we in the 21st century not letting ourselves sort of really reinvent the Viking in a way that fits the 21st century? Because, clearly the size of Midgardsblot, fun fact, they told us last night, this is the largest blot, right? And that's a sacrifice ceremony, or just like this spiritual gathering, I guess, would just be the most vague way to describe it. With the pagan context since conversion 1,000 years ago. And that was really interesting to me. Like, I hadn't thought of it that way. But yeah, there are hundreds, if not 1,000 people here. And we were all participating in this blot ceremony yesterday. I got some right here, as I said. And before they started, they said, this is objectively, just so you're all aware, the largest blot ceremony since conversion. And everyone sort of took a minute to be like, whoa, that we're doing that, right? And so, like, with that happening right after Dr. Frederick Gregorius's talk really made a lot of us think about how important it is that we do take ownership of the meanings and the symbols behind Vikings, right? And his whole thing, which I was super into, which was reinventing it as a sort of, both there's the feminist icon thing, Lagertha from Vikings, and how, so many women feel empowered by those sorts of images. And then the one that I more resonated with, because I'm not a woman, so I couldn't really but the one that I related to most was reinventing the Viking as this sort of eco-warrior thing, living a simpler life and very Thoreauian. I talk about Thoreau a few times just because I have a hard time not talking about him. But like this simple, back to the earth, respecting the world around you sort of thing. And he made a really compelling argument for that being those being the bases of our own inventions of the Vikings. So I just thought that was a really inspiring speech, and I'm looking forward to having him on the podcast. He said he'd love to be on. I don't know when. He's a busy guy, but hoping to. And then I also met, I finally met Rune Rasmussen from Nordic Animism, and hopefully he's going to be on the show too. We had a really good talk about Fossegrim and Olive Bull and the Hardanger Fiddle, for those of you who who've seen those episodes with Olive Bull and all them. So yeah, it was just a really cool day. And then of course, musically, I know there probably aren't that many. I mean, I have a bunch of new followers just from Midgardsblot, but a lot of my longtime followers, there probably aren't that many metalheads. But there's this all-female band called Convent. They're a death metal band, and they were just amazing. They were incredible. I posted a reel and a short about it, or from their concert. And my favorite thing for my fellow musicians watching, for however many of you were here, the guitarist was doing these heavy, brutal riffs on a Squier Jazzmaster. And that is just so funny to me, because so many people put so much thought into, do I have the right axe to do some riffage, right? However, whatever caricature you want to do of like a metal guitarist. And this chick's up there with a Squier Jazzmaster, like melting face. And it was just, it was inspiring. I love that. They were a great band to put on the best show. But that was actually the only band I saw last night, because then we left to go for a swim before it got too cold out. But yeah, great first day. I've been going on for a little bit now. I came a long way from my 60-second blogs. Guess I'm getting a little more comfortable with this whole thing. Anyway, so today I'm helping with the sound for Matthias and Dan over at the Nordic Mythology podcast. They're doing a talk with Jonas Lorenzen from Nabala, who I'm hoping to have him on the show as well, because he does his talk about reinventing the Viking. He's completely reapproaching how, Viking music is made nowadays. If you think of Arjuna or Heilung, both of which are playing at this festival, he just released an album. Nabala just released an album that really takes it in a whole new direction. So for anyone who is interested in like that Viking music type stuff, but is sort of bored with like seeing the same themes over and over again, highly recommend Nabala. And Jonas Lorenzen is just the nicest guy, and he made the barbecue brisket at Fire in the Mountains, and that was like, even as a butcher, a barbecue loving butcher, that was the best brisket I ever had, and it was made by a Dane. So that kind of put all the American barbecue joints I've been to shame. But anyway, so he's a great guy, and they're going to be talking about sexuality in the Norse myths and in Viking culture and all that, very thought-provoking, making us rethink, again, those impressions we have from the invention of the Viking. Because a big part of this, what we're doing here, is sort of reevaluating, reinventing, and all that. So I think I've talked long enough. I got to get in there for sound check in a few minutes, probably. So yeah, for the next few days, you no longer have, if you are feeling a little envious of the weather I've been having and posting about, don't be, because now it's back to good old-fashioned Norwegian August. It's 60 degrees all the time and slightly drizzling all the time. So camping is going to be a little bit rougher from now on, but I'm still having a great time. I really hope I can see some of you here next year. And if any of you are watching who are here now, I'd love to meet you. Met some of you already, so it's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm out of things to talk about. It's still very early for me. I only just had just had the coffee, so the caffeine hasn't kicked in yet. Funny thing about camping is it shows you how many dependencies you have as you start to, I get up and the coffee joint didn't open for like an hour, and I was sitting here like getting hives, scratching my neck. So luckily I got the fuel in me. So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here. So anyway, good to hear from you guys. Please reach out if you're here. Love giving you guys these updates. As you can see, I'm just thoroughly enjoying this here. This whole thing is quite the experience. It's definitely a great detachment before I go back to Boulder and start teaching again. So yeah, you guys take care. I've still got like 3 more days here. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to go back to Oslo the night before my flight leaves or the day of. When I say it out loud, probably the night before. Yeah, the night before I'm probably gonna leave, because that would be quite the journey. So yeah, I got a few more days here, so I'm gonna give you guys a few more updates, talk about the bands, hopefully get some good interviews with some people here, because I'd love to talk about why attendees come here and the meanings that they make with the music. Because as a musicologist, ethnomusicologist, all the stuff I do is about meaning making with music, and there's a whole lot of meaning making going on here. So anyway, take care, guys. Have a great day. Really love being here, and hope I can see you here next year. Awesome.